I reached my office building, said good morning to Joe the elevator man, and walked up the 8 stories to my place of business. I glanced at the sign painted on my door. Dick DeWitt, Private's Investigator. Had long ago demanded the landlord get rid of the extra letter, but the scuzzbag hadn't. Each time I saw the sign, I recalled how mad Mom had been when I legally changed my name, which had seemed too long and ungainly. After all, who'd want to hire a tech named Richard DeWitt? Come to think of it, who'd want to hire me at all, I pondered as I opened the door, switched on the light, and prepared for another day of being closer to the grave. This sort of gloominess sometimes stuck in my craw the way this morning's peanut butter and salami sandwich was doing. The office was a mess. Dottie's fingernail bits were all over the place, and her bra was hanging from the old Remington on which she could type a nifty 10 or 12 words a minute. As typists go, that ain't much, but Dottie was a good girl and plenty loyal. She had an offer to work at her cousin Elmer's glue factory, but turned it down to stay with me. "I've been with you almost 3 years, Mr. DeWitt," she had said, "and another 3 or so won't hurt, although I wish you'd pay me more than a few times a year." Pay her? Ha! With the business the way it was during these hard times, I was lucky I could pay myself occasionally. And with that dark thought in mind, I sat down behind my battered secretary. The desk, that is, not Dottie, remembering just in the nick of time that I needed a chair. 10:45, no calls, no clients. I kept reading the newspaper I'd swiped from the office across the way. President says the worst is over and that good times lie ahead. Sure. Unemployment still high. Society matron breaks leg tripping over a bum in a gutter. I turned to the racing section and noticed that the horse I'd been thinking of betting on came in 30-1 odds. It's a dog's world, I thought, and promised myself that I'd switch to greyhounds the next time I had a shekel or two. Suddenly I heard a tapping at the door. I knew it wasn't a raven. A raven's tap is lighter because its claws are turned slightly inward during the fall and winter seasons. Reaching into the file drawer for my trusty 38, I told whoever it was to come in. He was slightly under average height, maybe 5'4" or so, and slightly above average weight, maybe 210. There was nothing unusual about his face either, save for the monocle he wore in each eye, nor about his garb: brown slacks, blue blazer, orange tie, Philadelphia Phillies baseball cap. I pointed to the chair that faced me across the desk and told him to sit down and take a load off his toes, all 10 of them. He seemed nervous, maybe because he couldn't remove the load from his toes, or maybe because there was more than 10 of them.
"Sir," he squeaked, "I need help bad. And I hear that while you're not the best gumshoe in the city, far from it, they tell me, you're probably the cheapest."
He looked at me pleadingly through his monocles. They were wet, either from tears or from the water that had begun to drip from the ceiling as a result of yesterday's rain. A natty dresser who wears monocles must have a lot of dough, I figured. Whatever his problem, I couldn't afford to lose this Beau Brummel. "Well, you've come to the right place, Mr.
"Baker,"
replied the monocles. "And what you do, if I may ask, Mr. Baker?"
"I bake."
My instincts, as usual, were right on the money. He does have a lot of dough. I knew I had to grill him hard if I wanted to get the case. "Can you be more specific? What exactly do you bake? Bread? Cupcakes? Sacher torts? Blackbirds in a pie?"
"A little of this and a little of that. But it's not about my work that I've come to see you. It's about my girl Mona. I think that there's something going on."
"You can always chercher the femme," I thought, "and also look for her." "Mr. Baker, what exactly do you think is going on?" I eyed the poor chump, and I could tell that he would have difficulty giving me the lowdown, unless he removed the monocle that had slipped into his mouth.
"I think Mona Tuchevsky Smith, that's her name, has been kidnapped and is being held for ransom.